Hello and bonjour, I'm Sarah Bokhari and you're watching Power Dilemma here at TAG TV. NDP's Andrea Horwath is jumping ahead of Kathleen Wayne and the Liberals 1 week into the 2018 Ontario election. According to an Ipsos poll conducted exclusively for Global News, the NDP is gaining ground with 35% of respondents saying they would vote for Horwath's party. That's up 6 points from last week's polling. The Liberals would only garner 22%, down 4% from last week. But Doug Ford and the Progressive Conservatives are still ahead, with 40% of respondents saying they would vote PC if an election were held tomorrow. That number is unchanged from last week. Only 3% say they would vote for other parties, including the Green Party. Pollster Daryl Bricker, CEO of Ipsos Public Affairs, explained, "Normally, you would expect the NDP not to be a factor in that the fight would be between the Liberals and the Conservatives." The polls also explained that the Tories have some key ridings in the seat-heavy 9 of 5 region. They are winning by 20 percentage points. In that region, 49% of respondents say they'd vote PC, 29% said they'd vote NDP, and 20% said they'd vote Liberal. The suburbs holds the key to election victory in Ontario. In Toronto's 416 region, the NDP have the stronger lead, with 38% of respondents saying they'd vote Orange. Another 34% say they'd vote PC, while 26% picked Liberals. Outside the GTA, the Liberals aren't faring any better. In southwestern and northern Ontario, the NDP have the lead with 41% and 47% of the vote respectively, while Tories are number 2 with 35% and 27%. The Liberals have only 18% of the vote in the southwestern and 25% in the northern regions. In Central, the Tories have the lead with 41% of the vote, with the NDP as a close second with 39%. The Liberals are far behind with 20% of the vote. Eastern Ontario is the only region in which the Liberals aren't in third place. They are in second with 26% of respondents saying they'd vote red. But they are still 23 points behind the Tories, who have 49% of the vote. The NDP is third with 18%. Bricker says it's been a steep fall across the province for Wayne's party. The Liberals have fallen pretty precipitously everywhere, not just in one place and everywhere. So this is becoming a race between these Conservatives and the NDP, he explained. The two left-leaning leaders were asked over the weekend about the possibility of forming a coalition government if the Tories win a minority. NDP leader Andrea Horwath said Monday there is no way she would join forces with the Liberals. So to discuss who is winning, what is this, why the NDPs are ahead and they're leaving the Liberals behind, we have our regular commentator, Mr. Jamie Allerton. He is with Conaptus. Welcome to my show, Jamie.
Thanks for having me back, Sarah.
Okay, so Jamie, why are Liberals losing in the polls?
Well, this is something we've seen in polls, and not just the one by Ipsos, but other polling companies as well, for months now. There's a strong desire for change, with at least 2/3 of the electorate looking to replace the government with a new one. And I think if you look at any one particular poll, it's never good to put too much weight into them. But when all the polls kind of consistently say the same thing and really show clear trends, there's one of the reasons why the Liberals are going to be worrying right now. And when you look at how issues like cap and trade and the rising costs of hydroelectricity continue to permeate the consciousness of Ontarians and being something that they just know isn't right. If you look at healthcare wait times again becoming a thing, and when you hear Doug Ford say things like hallway healthcare and the fight that the Ontario Liberals had with the doctors forever, it also just seems like something's not right. And then when you add to that the government that's been in power for 15 years and has faced no shortage of scandals in that time, of course, most recently having the former Premier's chief of staff sentenced to jail time for his role in the gas plant's cover-up scandal, there's a real desire for change going on right now, and the Liberals are really seem like they're up against an insurmountable mountain to climb back out of this.
So, yes, why was there an offer made to NDP leader for a Liberal, to have a coalition with the Liberals?
So one of the things the Liberals have tried to do in this campaign is to try and frame it as a referendum on Doug Ford and the Ontario PC party, with the recent surge in the polls by the NDP from kind of third place in the low to mid-20s up to second place, and in some polls, as Ipsos one, as high as 35%. That means the NDP is at levels we've not seen in the province since Bob Rae formed government back in the early 1990s. So from a tactical standpoint, it's a way for the Liberals to try and show themselves as equal with the NDP and someone who they can work with to try and stop a Doug Ford government. And on the other hand, it's their way of trying to stay relevant and in this conversation, because on an issue-by-issue basis, regardless of where they are in the province, people just are looking for something else that is not the Liberal Party.
And then Andrea Horwath denies that she doesn't want to be in coalition with Liberals. How would you take that?
I think that's actually a smart move for Andrea, because if you look again at how high the sentiment for change is across the province, there is nothing for Andrea Horwath, especially this early in an election campaign, to be looking to form a coalition government and kind of talk about those formal alliances that people like to talk about, the pundits like to talk about at this point in the campaign. Andrea is obviously looking to run this campaign to win as many seats as she can across the province for the NDP and ultimately form a government. And when there's such a desire for change away from the Ontario Liberal Party in government led by Kathleen Wynne, it makes absolutely no political sense for her to be tying her future potential forming a government with the Liberals to that, because then how do you then sell that as change? So I think Andrea's kind of been smart to rebuff those kind of coalition tactics that the Liberals are trying to employ. But ultimately, we will see how many seats each party has when this election's over on June 7th. And the political realities then will have far more dictation as to how who forms a government and how that process works, as opposed to kind of the wrangling going on in the media today.
But in the 416 areas, particularly downtown Toronto, NDP is looking very good. Do you think we might have an NDP minority government June 7th? Does it look that good?
I think it's too soon to say where the final results are going to be. One of the things that you'll see now that the NDP has kind of surged in the polling numbers, and you've already started to see this, is the Liberals and the Conservatives look to hone their attacks on them. So they're no longer just going, PCs are no longer just going after the Liberal Party and Kathleen Wynne. They're now also trying to discredit and contrast their plan for change with that of Andrea Horwath. I think it's clear, if you do not like Doug Ford, you're probably going to be looking at how you cast your ballot wherever you are in the province to support the person most likely to beat a PC candidate. But I also think people continue to, I think, underestimate Doug Ford. He is a successful politician who's had some success in Toronto, and even though he didn't win the mayoralty race in 2014 here in the city of Toronto, he actually had a large number of support from across partisan lines in places like Etobicoke and Scarborough, that if he can replicate that on leading the PC party on a provincial campaign, could very much turn seats blue in a way that we have not seen since Harrison 95. So there's a lot of campaigning to come between now and June 7th between all three party leaders and their local candidates. And I think you're going to continue to see them hone the attacks on the others to try and discredit their plans and poke holes in where they see shortcomings while offering their vision for voters.
So, research has shown that historically it has been the suburban vote which has always determined the outcome of the election. Is it true? Like, what is your take on this?
Yeah, there's kind of a general understanding that as goes the 416 and 905, and especially the outer parts of the 416, mixed in with the 905, as goes kind of the province. And so to look at how many seats are in the province. We're at about 124, if I'm not mistaken, is the new redistributed number. There are so many seats in the GTA that you need strong representation in the legislature from those regions to be able to form a government. And we saw this back in 2014 with the numbers when Tim Hudak and Andrea Horwath lost and Wynne kind of won a surprising majority. Yes, she had a sprinkling of members here and there outside of the GTA, but it really was the 905 and the 416 that delivered for her and gave her a majority government.
Okay, so I'm just like, you know, this question is really kind of itching me, and I'm itching to ask this question. Do you think it is really the race between the Conservatives and the NDPs now, as polls have shown that they have they've put the Liberals behind?
Yeah, I really kind of do think it's not necessarily a two-way race as if the Liberals are irrelevant, because there will still be some strong support for the Liberals in parts of Eastern Ontario, specifically in Ottawa, and as well as in parts of the inner part of Toronto, and perhaps a little sprinkling elsewhere in the province. But one of the things to kind of really watch on this is, given how high that sentiment for change is, if you look at the kind of plan and the issues that Doug Ford is talking about and wanting to kind of change course from what the Liberals are proposing, and if you hear what Andrea Horwath is saying, there's a lot more similarities from the policies and proposals she's looking to put forward, like the government's already going on. They just want to get there faster and go that much further. And so if they're looking for like real change in terms of substantive policy issues, you probably will look to Doug Ford and the Ontario PC Party as that change. But if you're looking to kind of continue on a general policy direction, like the Ontario Liberals have been taking the province down, and you also don't like the corruption, and you really do want change in someone who's going to stand up for working people, that's why you've seen Andrea Horwath really hammer that kind of positive message of being changed for the better, and I think that's why she's having some success right now in the polls. But she's got to now, I think one of the things that's at risk for the NDP is I think most Ontarians would be hard-pressed to name another MPP aside from Andrea Horwath who currently serves in the legislature. And so now that they're going to be in conversation for potentially being the next government of Ontario, people are going to start to look at who are the other 123 candidates running for the NDP all across the province, and what are their qualifications, and does she have the talent and the experience and the skill set within her future caucus to form a cabinet. You've already started to see some of the opposition parties do some fear-mongering as it relates to what the NDP did to the province the last time they were in government, kind of indisputably one of the least successful governments Ontario's ever seen, as the NDP led by Bob Rae. But so that kind of sentiment is going to continue to, I think, creep into the conversation as long as Andrea Horwath's NDP numbers persist in these kind of 30s mark. And I think the other thing to watch will be the undecideds of people who necessarily don't want to vote for the NDP, but also don't like what they see with Doug, who might have traditionally, in more recent times, voted Liberal. They might decide there's just no one there for them that they can support, and so the question becomes, do they even turn up to vote on ballot day? And so I think voter turnout was very much as well can play a role in the ultimate outcome of this election. So there's a lot of moving variables, and there's a lot of campaign time left, so I have no doubt, Sarah, I'll be back to talk about this more and see where the province takes us.
Okay, so I just want to connect to the voters now. What are voters thinking, or let's say, what are the few platform policies which considering which they would vote? What are the things which all these parties are giving to voters or attracting voters on which the citizens, the voters, will be voting?
I think one of the things you often see in election times is kind of the focus on pocketbook issues. It's a matter of debating what is the appropriate level of taxation, as well as what are the services you're getting for that level of taxation. Some people in the province are willing to pay more in taxes if they feel like they're getting better services, where others feel because services aren't getting better and they're actually getting worse, but they're being asked to pay more, they want to see a reduction in their tax bill. They're looking at things like the healthcare system and whether or not it's hard to find a family doctor, or how long they have to wait when they go to an emergency room, or perhaps their aging parents spend more time struggling to find a long-term care bed so that they can have dignity and end-of-life care, and those sorts of things. For young families and parents, they're going to be looking at education, both from a curriculum standpoint and what the quality of schools are like in their area and whether the province is getting that right. And so there's kind of no one single issue that everyone kind of motivates around. If you look at the two largest expenditures of the provincial government here in Ontario, it is healthcare and education, and so I think people will think of those issues front and center a lot, but I think the other will kind of be the general direction of the province from an economic standpoint, and who's set of policies are best going to bring and create jobs in the province, are going to create opportunity for the next generation, and help continue to build on the Canadian dream.
Any last message you want to give it to our viewers, Jamie, today?
Yeah, I think anyone who's watching your show today should think about how they're going to vote, and I would encourage them to do the research. If you go to the Elections Ontario's website, you'll be able to plug in your postal code and figure out exactly which riding you live in, and you'll be able to look at the candidates who are registered, and I would encourage you to get out at events and meet those candidates and make an informed decision and take part in the democratic process. It's one of the things that makes Canada such a great country. We do have this right. It's something that our ancestors and generations before us has fought for, and I would hope that everyone goes out and does their democratic and civic duty.
That's so true. Viewers, you have to make an informed decision. And with this, thank you so much, Jamie. Jamie Alerton is with Conaptus. Thank you so much for being at my show today, Jamie.
Thank you, Sarah.
And with this, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk about more about election 2018. Stay tuned.
Greenish Hair, Skin and Nails formula is packed with all the essential nutrients like biotin, omega-3, vitamins, and minerals to provide your hair, skin, and nails the nourishment that it needs. Like all other Greenish vitamins and supplements, the Hair, Skin and Nails formula is gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free, and non-GMO. It is also halal, kosher, and veggie certified. So make Greenish Hair, Skin and Nails formula a part of your daily healthcare routine.
Welcome back. Before the break, we were talking to Jamie Alerton from Conaptus, and we were talking about the Conservative strategy and how the Liberals have gone behind and NDP have come up to the front. So to talk about the NDP strategy, the platform, we are very lucky to have with us today Ms. Laura Kaminker. Ms. Kaminker is the NDP MPP candidate from Mississauga Centre. Welcome to my show, Laura.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I'm very happy to be here.
Okay, first of all, I would like to thank you, Laura, to be on my show, because we send out the same kind of invitation to the PC candidates and Liberal candidates, and no one got back to us. I hope to have the PC candidates and the Liberal candidates at my show, but again, credit goes to you for coming to my show.
Well, that's their loss, isn't it?
Okay, so Laura, why are Liberals losing in the polls?
Well, I assume it's because they've had 15 years in government and they haven't gotten it done. You know, they're making a lot of promises. They had a lot of time to make good on all the things that they're talking about, but they didn't do them. And in fact, a lot of the things that they're promising are to fix problems that they themselves caused. So I think people have just had it with the Liberals. They want to try something new. And the ideas of the NDP, the platform of the NDP, speak to people. It resonates with them.
Okay, so when you say that NDP is resonating with people, what is the platform, or what are a few things which NDP is offering which is resonating among voters?
Well, I think farmer care for all, dental care for all, free or affordable child care, an end to student debt, and real action for seniors, for long-term care. I think those are things that everyone wants, and that we can achieve with a more equitable tax structure, so that the wealthiest corporations and the very, very wealthiest individuals pay their fair share, so we can take the burden off the middle class, off the working class, and give everyone the supports that they need to live a good life.
Okay, Laura, you mentioned that NDP's platform is farmer care for all, dental care free for all. How is the NDP going to arrange the monies for these kind of plans?
Well, the NDP is the only party right now whose platform is completely costed out. If you go to OntarioNDP.ca and you look up the platform, the last few pages are all the budget and exactly how it's going to be paid for. And it will be paid for with a more fair tax structure where so we can take the burden off the overtaxed middle class and have the wealthiest corporation pay their fair share. Because, you know, Sarah, right now, the corporate tax rate is at an all-time low. Major corporations hardly pay any taxes at all, and we want to change that.
Okay, what other cuts are you is NDP referring or plans to present?
Well, I'm sorry, I'm not sure what you mean by cuts. What do you
Yeah,
mean by cuts?
is NDP proposing some cuts or some more taxation on the wealthy corporations?
We're not proposing any service cuts. We want to see the public services increase.
Okay.
So, and we're not proposing raising taxes on working people and middle class families. That's for sure.
Okay.
I don't have any other cuts to tell you about.
Okay. Okay. So, Laura, in news, there were some rumors that Andrea Horwath was asked a question that if she would like to have a coalition with the Liberals. Is that true?
Well, she was asked the question.
Mm-hmm.
It's something the media likes to talk about. It usually means the NDP is doing well.
Mm-hmm.
The last time we heard about an NDP Liberal coalition, the federal NDP was surging in the polls.
Mm-hmm.
So it just means that the NDP is doing well. So the media, for some reason, feels the need to ask about a coalition. That's all I can tell you.
Okay, and Andrea Horwath say no, she's not interested in this kind of coalition. Do you have any, would you like to say anything on it, elaborate on it?
No, not really.
Okay.
The NDP is the party offering change for the better. I think it's really important that we don't let Doug Ford become the next premier. And the way to do that is to vote for change for the better. That's, you know, I believe in that very strongly. I believe in it so strongly that I came out to run for elected office for the first time in my life.
Okay, so what is your background? Give us a little bit of your background, Laura.
Well, I'm a lifelong activist.
Mm-hmm.
I've mostly been involved in grassroots activism, in the labor movement, in the women's movement, anti-apartheid stuff. That's how I got started. All kinds of different grassroots activism. I used to be a freelance writer. I'm a published author, and I wrote professionally for 20-something years. And then I made a career change, and 30 years after graduating university, I went and got my master's degree and became a librarian. And I'm now a librarian with the Mississauga library system.
Okay.
And I am also president of CUPE 1989, which is the union that represents library workers in Mississauga.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and the NDP contacted me and asked me, like their search committee asked me if I would consider running. And I was so excited about the platform and excited about Andrea, and I got swept up in it. And I should tell you that a number of the candidates here in Peel, in Mississauga and in Brampton, are also first-time candidates and also women.
Awesome. You have a lot on your plate, Laura.
Yes, I have to say I am taking a leave. I'm on leave right now from the library and from my union responsibilities in order to focus on the campaign,
Mm-hmm.
because I am not Super Wonder Woman.
Mm-hmm. No, it looks like you are a Wonder Woman. So,
Well,
yeah.
that's very kind of you.
So going back into the, you know, if we turn the pages of history, we see that there are a few suburban areas which determine the result of the elections or result of the votes. What are the few major, or what are the many major ridings which are NDP oriented?
I think we're going to see a lot more ridings that are NDP oriented than we have in the past. So I wouldn't speculate on that. I would just say that the specter of the Doug Ford conservatives coming in is really pushing people to get out and vote, and they don't want the Liberals, and they like what they're hearing from the NDP. So I don't want to say that it's this riding or that riding. I think a giant orange surge is coming, and I think we'll be really surprised at all the ridings that go NDP.
It's a big battle. It's a big battle for Queen's Park, for sure.
It is for sure.
So how are you, Laura, one more question or maybe two more questions. How are you going to change the lives of Mississaugas? Mississauga Centre you're running, so how would you bring a change in the life of the people living in Mississauga Centre?
Oh, that's a great question, Sarah, because I think if people have childcare that they can afford, and that will relieve such a huge burden on families, and being able to another part of the NDP platform that I hadn't mentioned before is putting hydro back in public hands, which would decrease hydro bills by as much as 30%. So those kinds of changes will alleviate a lot of pressure on families, an end to student debt so that there will be grants for tuition instead of loans with interest that has to be paid back. So those kinds of changes, I think, will have a direct impact on the quality of life of ordinary Mississauga residents.
What do you have to say about hallway healthcare? Everyone is talking about hallway healthcare. How are you going to correct that system?
Well, that's another great question. I think that the healthcare system is an excellent system. People love to say it's broken, but really what it is underfunded. There were drastic cuts made in the past under conservative governments like the Mike Harris government, but the Liberals who came in afterwards never restored proper funding. So with really good funding, we could have, we want more hospitals, more hospital beds, more nurses, more professional care, and also support workers. And it's just totally unacceptable that there are people being treated in hallways and sometimes left in hallways for days on gurneys. So I think that is a really good indicator of how things need to change. Doug Ford is not going to do that. He is going to cut further. He's promised that. So to me, it's very obvious. You have one party that wants to cut further, another party that let it go on like this with these conditions for 15 years, and the party that is going to make change for the better. So it seems very clear.
Okay, what are you going to, questions are connected to Mississauga residents. What are you going to do for immigrants in Mississauga Centre? Because Mississauga Centre welcomes a lot of immigrants. Very many ethnic communities are living in Mississauga Centre. How is your platform helping them?
That's a great question too, because as a librarian at Central Library, I provide services to newcomers all the time, especially newcomer families with young kids. And I think more than either of the other two parties, the NDP really cares about equity and fairness and equal access. Equal access to health care or any other services. And we need to break down barriers. We need to reduce and hopefully eliminate barriers to service. So those may be language barriers, they could be immigration status, disability. There are many different conditions that can cause barriers to access, and we want to break those down and really be able to serve everyone and to everyone to have equal access. And we have that to a very large extent in Mississauga. We're very, Mississauga is all about diversity and inclusion. And I'm not saying that we don't have that equal access now, but it's an NDP core value. So I know that under an NDP government, that would be something we could count on.
Okay, so this is, Laura, it's a campaign mode. Entire Ontario is in the campaign mode. Writ has been dropped. It's been a week, I believe. What is the kind of response you're getting at doors?
People are interested. People are asking questions, and they're interested. And, you know, it's early days in terms of talking to voters. We haven't been out there that long, but people are, they're impressed. They're impressed with the platform. They're scared of Doug Ford. So, you know, I think that if there's ever been a time, it's now. I think that the chance has never been greater that we will have an NDP government in Queen's Park.
Okay, Laura, thank you so much for your participation at my TV show, and we will definitely have you back before the 7th of June. I wish you best of luck.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Talk to you later.
Oh, thank you. And this was Laura Kamenker. She is running as an MPP candidate in Mississauga Centre from the platform of NDP. We'll take a short break.
Greenish Hair, Skin and Nails formula is packed with all the essential nutrients like biotin, omega-3, vitamins, and minerals to provide your hair, skin, and nails the nourishment that it needs. Like all other Greenish vitamins and supplements, the Hair, Skin, and Nails formula is gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free, and non-GMO. It is also halal, kosher, and veggie certified. So make Greenish Hair, Skin, and Nails formula a part of your daily healthcare routine.
So viewers, how are you going to vote? Research your riding, get to know the various candidates in your riding, understand the various platforms of the parties in election. What are their stances on jobs, healthcare, end-of-life care for seniors, taxation, childcare, education system, education curriculum, housing and environment. Make an informed decision. Also understand the rules of Election Canada and choose your right to vote wisely. With this, I take off. Keep watching Power Dilemmas every week at TAG TV. Like our page on Facebook. Enjoy the summer-like weather. Ciao.